Just to introduce myself, my name is Alessia Fada. I am responsible for training and enablement at WorkPath. So we are a software company, of course, so we basically facilitate outcome management, especially in the OKR process. And yeah, really happy to be here with you. Good morning, Juana. Good to not see you, but almost see you again. Nice, perfect. So I think we are enough. Yeah, a couple of people are still trickling in. But in the meantime, let's just start into our little session. So first, a short introduction. This is who we are, WorkPath, a software that enables people to execute their strategy faster. Yeah, we are highly focused on outcome management and actually trying to help not only execute goals faster, but also the right goals. So yeah, this is a couple of customers that we work with, and quick look into our software as well. But of course, it's not only software that we do. I'm part of the team that actually helps the customer succeed with the OKR process. So we do a lot of trainings, certifications, and we also have a couple of partners that help our customers introduce OKRs better and are a bit more, let's say, hands-on in the OKR implementation. We're also very proud of our community. So I see a couple of our community members here as well. Good to see you here. We have an online community. We also connect our customers in peer groups. And we also do events such as the WorkPath Quarterly. And next year in early February, we're going to host the OKR Forum as well. So I'm really happy to see a couple of you here. Yeah, so a couple of words to myself. I'm a manager for training and enablement. And yeah, we actually coach and train our customers in the OKR process and try to help them make the most of the process itself and our software. Yes, a couple of questions up front. I would like to know a couple of things. So first of all, one question. So which location are you joining from right now? Please use the Q&A functionality that should pop up now, or the chat. So I see Cologne here. I see Berlin, I see Munich. From India, nice. Lithuania, Koblenz, Hamburg, Holzwickede, nice. Frankfurt, Austria. Yeah, a bit more German speaking today. Nice. Nice to know, thank you. Oh, Cairo, Egypt. Perfect, welcome, Mahmoud. All right, second question. So does your company already work with OKRs? Options is yes, no, kind of. Let's see the results. A couple of you are answering with kind of, mostly yes though. A couple of no's. Let's see how this splits. So the split is more or less 50% of people actually work with OKRs, 30% kind of. So I guess this means you just started working with OKRs, and 18% said no. I see a remark in the chat. No, but you're implementing at the moment. Very nice. So yeah, if you need any support, we're always happy to help. All right, third question. So how would you rate your OKR knowledge? So 1 would be, I read the Wikipedia article, and 10 would be, I feel I invented OKRs. Let's see what most of you. So we have a couple of people in the, let's say, middle, a couple of 5s, even have an 8, a couple of 7s, Let's wait until it trickles in. One person that doesn't have any knowledge. So we have 30% on a 5. I guess a lot of you are a bit more in the upper field, so to say, so 4 to 8. Very good to know. Thank you very much for answering the poll as well. All right, let's start into our agenda. So first of all, I would, we just in the middle of the welcome and introduction, and after that, I would like to discuss a bit with you why even capacity management and OKRs make sense together. And then we're going to into a couple of steps on how to plan your team capacity effectively. And then after that, we have a couple of minutes as well for Q&A. Yeah, here it would be great if you use the Q&A function in Zoom, so you can actually ask questions there that my colleagues in the background and me will answer. And yeah, if while I'm doing my presentation, if in the meantime questions already pop up, please feel free to already use the Q&A section. So why capacity management and OKRs? Let's start with a very brief words about what OKRs even are. So OKRs, an agile leadership and goal management framework. And it is about not only executing goals, but also executing on outcome-oriented goals. We are very, very firm on the alignment part of it. It's very, it can provide a lot of benefit to align these goals. And it creates engagement and empowerment among the employees as well, since you actually get to set your own goals. And the objective is the part that tells us where you want to go. And the key results are actually telling us, did we actually fulfill these promises that we're making, these value propositions? And are we actually measuring if we're getting there? Just to have a quick look at what can OKRs do, what are the reasons why our customers introduce OKRs, and they are basically summed up by these OKR principles. So one is that OKRs provides alignment. So we actually talk about goals. We actually talk about, let's say, beyond our own functions. We talk about what we are planning for the next cycles. This is how alignment is fostered. At the same time, communication transparency is fostered through the fact that OKRs are phrased in the same way. They are public and transparent for everybody. Continuous learning, of course, in many other agile concepts, is provided through reviews and retros, and continuously learning, not only about how good are we at executing our strategy, but also in regards to how can we actually change the process and optimize the process. Customer focus and continuous value creation. We are setting goals in quarterly or half-year cycles. And we also formulate them in a way that contain actually the customer. So the customer value is part of the goal itself. That also is kind of like the whole outcome orientation part of it. OKRs also create engagement and team empowerment, since teams actually only get guardrail strategic ones and then get to actually think of how do you want to pay into this. So teams are getting more accountability and responsibility for setting their own goals and are being fostered to think strategically. This, of course, leads to leveraging the swarm intelligence as well, which is definitely an advantage. And as you've seen, also have, let's say, the key results in the OKR concept, which is basically a certain figure, a metric that helps us see, did we actually reach a strategic goal, and is not only relying on, let's say, gut feeling if we have reached it. So this is one thing. And the other aspect is, especially with a tool like WorkPath, you get to actually have data on your process as well and get to improve on it. The aspect of purpose-driven work, something that is very important to most customers and bigger corporations. Sometimes employees don't really feel the impact of their work that much, but OKRs actually, because they kind of enunciate and kind of explain more how did the value that I create relate to somebody else's work and to the overall goal, help you to be a bit more purpose-driven in your work, and give you the feeling that you know what actually changes if you're getting up in the morning to work. OKRs also provide focus, which means that you reduce the amount of goals set in a cycle. And you also try to focus more on the things that come from the top. So basically the top level OKRs are aspects that you actually get to focus on and provide kind of like these guardrails for you. So looking at the OKR cycle, just going through what elements we have here, just to be a bit more aware on how then capacity planning factors into all of this. So the OKR cycles are usually quarterly. And after the announcement of the organizational priorities, the teams and departments start drafting OKRs. So it's not cascaded down, but actually the teams get to decide what they want to work on. And because they're very autonomous in their decisions, you of course need to align after that. So after that, the alignment workshop takes place 2 weeks before the cycle starts, and OKRs are refined. And something that is important here as well, that the teams actually understand better, what do I contribute to other teams? Is there double work? Is there, are there reasons to collaborate a bit more? Then the kickoff starts. So this is when the cycle starts, and you have like weekly check-ins where you look at the OKRs and see has our needle moved here. Then retro and review happen, and that can be done a couple of weeks after the cycle starts to kind of like review these parts of the cycle and be aware of what we have to change there. And at the end of the cycle, of course, there is a review where you review the results. Let's have a look at why a lot of our customers are struggling, and how capacity planning could be the answer to this. So we have talked about a lot to people that had the problem. They did the entire cycle, they did everything the way they should, but they didn't have enough time to work on their OKRs. So basically they planned for it, but they weren't able to execute. Here, capacity planning actually provides more transparency and accurate planning, because there's an awareness that the resources we have for strategic work are finite. Like I always say, like there's a pie of my work that I can do, strategic or non-strategic, but actually bringing that transparency to that pie and how that is actually weighted, it can provide you to build up better capabilities to actually execute on those goals. Something else is the fact that operative work just took over. I was not able to focus. We hear that a lot. And operative work will always also be part of OKRs. Well, so let's say only at least like adjacent to OKRs, because let's say not every team is only working strategically. There's always a split of operative versus strategic work. And in that sense, capacity planning actually makes it transparent. What is my split? And let's say in the work of a customer service agent, that split will be more operative. In the case of let's say a product manager, maybe the work will be way more strategic. So there is an inherent split. And the question is just, is that weighted in the way that we actually wanted it to be? And then another aspect is there was too much ad hoc work pushed on us. And that happens a lot because sometimes not the entire organization works with OKRs. And especially the top management sometimes even has bigger things that you need to work on that they push on you. So this gives actually the possibility, if you actually plan for that by blocking buffers for that, you will actually have a great, way better ways to actually then work on those strategic things, because it doesn't take away time from your strategic work. Another aspect is that we hear a lot is we didn't know how much work to focus on which OKR that we set. And this can be mitigated by actually not only distributing the split and see how much can I spend on which topic, but rather than in the end, when you have drafted OKRs, look at them and say, well, how much of our strategic capacity do we want to put on which OKR? So this is how actually OKR, let's say capacity planning and capacity distribution actually helps achieve your OKRs better. Another very interesting aspect is that you can align as much as you want, but if you have aligned on something, but they weren't really specific about it. So how much time do I need from you? How much time do you need from me? When do you need it? And do you actually have the time to do it when I need you to do it? those are things that capacity planning can also help with, because a lot of people say we have aligned on this, but we didn't know how much work this took, or we didn't really, agree on how much capacity would have to go on our project. And so in general, this is something you would always estimate, right? So a lot of people say, well, people are not good at estimating, and especially when it comes to like work of others. But to us, a bad estimate is better than no estimate, because right now, a lot of teams don't even do capacity planning, so they don't really know what they actually, what they should have more transparency on, and what they're planning for. So this is actually where capacity planning comes in very handy. And yeah, if we actually did the capacity planning for us, for our team, how much time do we have, and then go to talk to other teams, then there's more accountability. Then I cannot really say, I didn't really know how much time this would take, or I can't really say, I didn't even know, if I could do all this work for you, because I've actually calculated upfront a buffer for actually helping you reach your OKRs. And then another aspect is we were trying to do too many things at the same time that we couldn't plan for. If you actually do capacity planning and have that transparency on what you plan on doing, then you can kind of like adjust that in the middle of the cycle. So you can actually reprioritize. It's the same aspect as if you like get ad hoc work pushed on you, right? If you only have a finite amount of resources, then you need to reprioritize. But you cannot reprioritize if you don't know how much time you have. So this is where this whole cycle is closed again. And then something that pops up in the retros and reviews a lot, we don't know why we didn't reach the goals. So we are not very good at like estimating if we're reaching goals in time or not. And we're not improving on executing our strategy. So the question is like, can you actually, when you plan for this, when you estimate these things, can you then learn better in the retrospectives and reviews? So much for the benefits in general of capacity planning. My question to you, do you already do capacity planning or capacity management in that sense? And here we will have another poll. So we have a couple of yes and a couple of no. So it's a good split, I think. So we have about, we have 50-50, more or less 50-50 of you do capacity planning and the others don't do that already. So actually it's a very good thing that you do that. So what we also, when we talk about capacity planning, we also would like to delineate that from like budgeting, because that's just different. So capacity planning is rather how much time does my team have and how is that time spent? So if you already do that, that's already something very, very good. Let's have a look at how to do that. So the basic concept includes 4 steps. The first step is calculate how many resources do we actually have to go on, and understand how you spend that time usually, or how you want to spend that time in the next cycle. Then you should draft OKRs, align and distribute the resources accordingly. And during the cycle, you get to use the overview that you created to reprioritize your work, or check if you are working in the way that you initially estimated to. And in the end, you can actually, in your retrospective, look back on what did we plan for, and what does the split actually in reality look like? And here again, if you don't have like the measuring capabilities, estimates are enough. And here you can actually understand way better on how much time do you spend on what, and also discuss, is this how we want to spend our time? If you have a high share of like operative work, is that intended? Or do we want to do it a bit differently? So let's have a look at when and how to do these things in the OKR cycle. So in the beginning, before drafting, you would actually assess the capacity you have and understand the distribution that you usually are facing. And after, then you would actually draft the OKRs as is written in the cycle here. And after that, you would distribute the capacity. So say like how much of our team capacity would go onto maybe which people even, and that can also determine the ownership of the OKRs. Then during alignment, you would go into the alignment with actually planned capacity and maybe also a planned buffer for cross-functional work. So you can tell people, well, there are 5 teams that need something from me. Now we have to discuss who of the 5 gets which timeshare of mine. So you can be way more specific and way more concrete about this. Then during the execution, so right after you actually start working on the OKRs in the weekly check-ins, you can actually add kind of a reality check of how much time, maybe if after 2 weeks you do the first check-in, you can understand how much time did we spend on strategic versus operative work, how much time did we spend in meetings, and then you have a way better way of actually reprioritizing your time as well. So maybe you've realized we do too much time in meetings, or we have too much operative work right now. Maybe we should try to focus on something else. And of course, the review and retro is the place where you actually learn on how to improve all of this. So I'm going to go through a couple of quick steps. Before you start, you actually have to think of like, what kind of unit do you want to calculate in? Are you a product team that rather relies on story points, or are you just like a regular team that bases everything they do on working hours? So what kind of makes sense for you? We have worked with both, and most teams actually work in hours or days, so they can say, well, how much time do I spend on something? And the easiest way to calculate your baseline is, to calculate the amount, the total amount of team capacity is with your calendars. Actually have a look at how many working days are there in the next cycle, and use that then as a base. So we also provide a canvas for this, so the capacity planning canvas. And this is where it gets very interesting, because when you subtract vacation days, time provisions for sick leaves, buffers for different aspects, so this could be ad hoc work, cross-functional work, whatever you want, and maybe business as usual, keeping the lights work and meetings. So there's a lot of things that you spend your time on. This may vary, so this is not like fixed. You can basically fill this out however it makes sense for you. And actually do an estimate. So how much time do I spend a week? How much time do I spend in a month? And kind of like calculate the entire work that the time that goes into these aspects of your work. And when you subtract all of that, all of the things that you do besides strategic aspects, you get a number of days or hours that you can spend on strategic work. And I prepare yourself now, this is going to be a very shockingly low number. We always think we have so much time for strategic projects, but this will give you the reality check on how much time do you actually want to spend, or how much time do you usually spend on meetings and keeping the lights on, like according to your estimate. And understanding is, this gives you a way of like understanding, is that the way we want it to be? Is the split of like strategic versus operative work actually desirable for our role? Or is that, does our like function need something, a different split here? So first step is to actually know how much time we have in the cycle. And then you would actually draft OKRs and distribute, maybe even like know which team member should put how much work into which OKR. So this is how you can actually then define owners and distribute that strategic capacity onto the OKRs. And the next step would then be actually going into the alignment talks with these things in mind. So we always talk about 2 different aspects of alignment. One is how much work that I do is actually driving the key results of other teams without me having to do additional work. So this is kind of like my OKR that I do pays into your key result or the key result on top. So this is one aspect of alignment, but there's a second one as well, which is basically how much time do I need from other teams that is not written in their OKRs in turn. So this is where you probably will need to add additional capacity or need to have like a buffer planned in here for cross-functional work. If it's something that I need to do on top of my own work that somebody else requests from me, then that's something I need to also be aware of. Do I have the capacity to do this? So this is very important then to also have a steady and reliable alignment in place. Because if you assure somebody that you can help them with something, but in the end can't really do that or don't have the time for it, then that just leads to, let's say, frustrations on both sides. Going into the last two aspects, they're kind of similar. So, so using the overview to reprioritize your work. This is something very important, especially for the teams. This can empower teams a lot more, because when I work with a lot of bigger companies, there usually is no transparency on how they actually spend their time. And if you actually give them this finite amount of work that they do and they have already planned in, because there's only a certain amount of days in a cycle or hours in a cycle that they can work on something, they get to have this as a basis to maybe also go to their managers and say, well, this has been like pushed in on me. What do I drop then? Because I only have a certain amount of time in my cycle. And we also wanted to focus maybe on the strategic topics. So what else can I not do in order to accommodate the new challenge that has been put on me? So that is a big chance to, during the cycle in the check-ins, not only look at what work have I done, but also did I spend the work, the time in my cycle the way I on work that I actually intended to do, or was there something else? And why was there the other topic? So this is always something that's interesting to look at then in the retro as well. And yeah, here it's always a good part to in the retro really understand why is the reason why we didn't reach our goals. Maybe was that rooted in bad capacity planning? How can we get better at estimating? So even if you don't have maybe a system that calculates this automatically, if you have like a rough estimate that already helps you to understand how much did I plan to work on these things, and did I actually do that? And if not, what was the thing that came in between? So it gives you much more transparency on your entire strategy execution. And if you would like to further work with us on these topics, please feel free to join our Better Path program, which is our user research program, where I would test different prototypes around capacity planning with you. So if you are already a user of WorkPath, please feel free to sign up here. We're very interested to research these topics with you together. So circling back to our OKR principles, the question is now, how did capacity planning, if you do it right, help all of these aspects? And I'm going to go through a couple of points here with you. So one is why is it helping better alignment? So I'm actually, as I mentioned before, I'm estimating how much time I am spending on, I plan to spend on something. I can be way more transparent, way more accountable for the time that I offer another team. That doesn't mean that you have to, let's say it's not like a binding contract, but at least with estimating I have X amount of time for cross-functional work, I can, do a much better commitment to the other teams, and be very a lot more specific as well, because that's something that a lot of teams are not. They're very, let's say, vague in their alignments, and this forces you to actually say well, I want to support them, but do I also have the time for it? Another aspect is you get more transparency in what you spend your time on. And this is especially relevant if you look at, let's say, process efficiency. If you do a lot of, let's take an example of software development. If you spend a lot of time on bug fixing, then probably your quality assurance is not the best. So maybe you need to write an OKR on how to spend less time on bug fixing, or improve your quality controls. It can give you even strategic insights on what to write an OKR about. So this is very much a benefit for leveraging the communication and transparency principle. Continuously learning, obviously, because you have a better overview on how you spend your time. You can learn if that's the split that you kind of like wanted to have. So what we see a lot is that there is from management or like the team leads, there is an actual spread or like split that is determined for the teams or like desired for the teams to give them kind of guidance. And then you can always like analyze on how and why did you spend your time on that split, or why did you deviate from that split? And is there something in like, let's say, structurally to be improved so you will be able to do, focus more on strategic work, for instance. Then another aspect is, the teams are way more transparent on am I spending my time on OKRs or like OKR related topics, which if you write OKRs in the best way possible, you would also have like the customer and the value that you create for the customer in the OKR, which in turn means if you focus more on OKRs, you focus more on customer value. So this can actually help you to keep the customer in mind a lot more. Engagement and team empowerment to me is something crucial here because teams can request reprioritization. I see it very rarely that if work is being pushed on teams, that they then say, good, cool, I can do that, but tell me what else to drop. And this is something that is very hard to do if you also very hard to do for the teams because they don't have the overview and nothing to base their arguments on, that they don't have time for that right now. And also very hard for the managers to kind of estimate, do they have the time for it? And if yes, when would they do it and what else would they drop? So this is kind of like a win-win situation for both sides, and especially can be very empowering for the teams that sometimes feel a bit powerless since when not the entire organization is doing OKRs and they don't really understand how does the work in OKRs relate to everything else. It can be easier for them to just say, well, okay, I'm just going to do the other thing on top as well. So yeah, this can give the teams a big boost in empowerment. When it comes to metric and data-driven decision-making, if I as a team see I'm spending too much time on something that is not strategic, even though I didn't plan for it, I can make a much more, let's say, it's not data driven, maybe like because it's not the, let's say, hard data, but at least like estimate driven decision making, which is closer to reality than just not doing the estimates at all. So to me, like this, especially if you're using a tool like WorkPath, you will have the opportunity as a team to make data-driven decisions on what you actually spend your time on, how that should change as well, especially in the check-ins. If you feel like, oh, like the entire strategic topics are not in what I'm covering right now, you could actually take an informed decision on what to focus on more. Then something that's also really important when it comes to purpose-driven work, I see a lot of teams that have many wasteful activities. So they maybe focus on business as usual or aspects that don't really provide strategic value. So they actually set the OKRs and technically have that purpose drive because they know this is how my goal pays into something else, but they don't have the time to work on it. So this gives them way more liberty to work on the strategic topics as well. And then something that is very important to most of our customers and a big issue is that the topic of focus. So if you don't know how much work you're putting towards OKRs, then you also can't really focus more. So this transparency throughout the entire cycle really gives you the power to say, well, I'm kind of like drifting away from the things that I actually wanted to do. And it gives you the power to say no and to actually say, well, I need to focus now. I've spent too much time on, ad hoc requests already. I cannot do that anymore. My buffer is used up. So that was a lot of input. Do you have any questions? What are your thoughts? Do you see any challenges? Please feel free to put all of that in the Q&A section. I'm going to give you a bit of time to fill in your questions. So I have one question by Mess. Especially working with product teams, I have the feeling that 1 week check-ins could be more an overhead because it's tough to move the needle every single week. What's your experience in that? Yeah, that is a very common thing. So to us, the check-ins is something that we leave up to our customers a lot. So we actually say you can do either 1 week or 2 week check-ins. And depending on how much the needle moves, you can decide to do it either once a week or bi-weekly. And especially with product teams, if they work in a Scrum cycle, for instance, they usually have the challenge anyway that they need to integrate these two frameworks. And my advice is always try to integrate them as smoothly as possible. If you're working with Scrum, try to like integrate the check-ins into maybe the sprint review and retro. And in that phase, try to like push also like aspects like looking at the capacity as well. So trying to understand, we try to split the time in the cycle in this way, but is that actually how we is the way we're doing it actually the way we have planned on doing it? All right. Thank you, Mess, for your question. Question from Mahmoud, at which phase of launching OKRs should we start focusing on capacity planning? So this can be something that depends a bit on the maturity of the organization. So capacity planning can be seen if you introduce capacity planning and OKRs in the same instance. It can seem a bit more like controlling what people are doing. It depends a bit to me how transparent the capacity planning would be to a team lead, or if they can actually say, well, the teams would estimate themselves, right? Every team member would say, this is how much time I usually spend on this, this, and that. And to me, the question is like, can the team lead or like the level above that have transparency on this? This should be like a tool that is used for the teams, for them to understand their work and not necessarily to control it. Of course, something like that, a general view, like the split of strategic and operative work can be something that, let's say, the direct reports might report. But yeah, it should be something that is a bit more private to the teams. A bit like the check-ins or reviews and retros, it's also nothing you would kind of like push into the entire organization. But yeah, if you have a company that is, let's say, mature in that understands that OKRs are not meant to kind of like control, and the transparency created is rather for the team as empowerment, then they probably would accept capacity planning a bit more. But yeah, I feel that if they are a bit shaky on the entire, what does it mean if I have strategic responsibility as a team now, part, then this might be a good aspect for the second cycle that you do. To me, that would be the advice that I can give you here. Thank you for your question. So it's not going to be easy to come up with hourly estimation at a strategic level. How does capacity management fit the bill here? Great question. So in my book, capacity planning and capacity management is more something for the teams that actually put their entire capacity towards working on OKRs. So I would see that more of let's drill down into what the teams actually spend time on and if there's an improvement there. So to me, this is not so much on the higher management levels, because they usually are not the ones who actually put the work into OKRs. So they put a work into formulating the top level OKRs, but they're rarely doing the ones actually, in the trenches, fighting to achieve them. They rather have that with like their relationship with the direct reports, where they see like, how is the OKR that I created performing right now? And then maybe the direct reports would drill down and maybe find out if there is a reason in the capacity planning or the capacity estimations why these top level goals are not performing. So yeah, to me, it's a team level aspect. Thank you. So Moritz, how do you go in the capacity planning? How to avoid pre-planning the complete quarter in detail? Great question. So to me, this should not be about planning every activity, but just having let's say a vague overview into what are we usually spending our time on. So if we look at the capacity, capacity planning canvas, for instance, this is just to estimate how much time do we actually spend on these things usually, and what can we, based on that, expect to be able to put into strategic work. So this should be, it should remain on that level. And then if you have, once you put kind of like the capacity onto the team members, or let's say like once you put the team member capacity towards OKRs, this is also not the place where you already know the initiatives. So everything you do on a day-to-day work level to achieve the OKRs, this is usually something that is at that stage, not entirely formulated already. So before actually, kind of like cascading, not cascading, but kind of like defining all of the initiatives, I would definitely wait until we have aligned everything. And then when you start into the cycle, or like right before you start into the cycle, have the initiatives planned out. There's also like a debate among our customers and when we work with them on capacity planning, if you should cascade that down onto initiative level and even put like people hours or people days onto initiatives. But I think in the beginning, it makes sense to just start with putting the capacity of the team members towards the OKRs and like define, this is, I don't know, John is spending 2 days this cycle on working on this one. Mary is spending 5 days on OKR X, Y, Z. This is how I would do it. And this is where I would stop the planning, because in the end, OKRs is also like an agile management framework. So you will probably not be able to plan this out entirely in detail. Thank you for your question. So, does WorkPath provide capability to match OKRs with the capacity, both planned and actual? If so, how are the actuals tracked? So right now you can already connect your Jira instance and also Azure DevOps to WorkPath. So you basically know how much time are you spending on each OKR. And something that we're increasingly working on is to provide more of that transparency in the beginning as well, in the planning phase. So something that you can download right now, or that we can also send you, is the capacity planning canvas, so to say. This one. We're continuously working right now on this topic to integrate that. And we have done a couple of prototypes and are planning on expanding in that area a lot more. And a lot of these things can be, let's say, the distributing team capacity can be done in our tool as well, because you can set collaborators and stakeholders, and can also, in the comments with the objectives, underline how much capacity that is taking right now. But if you are interested in working on with us on researching this topic more, go ahead and join our Better Path program. Thank you. So Marco, product teams already working with other agile methodologies, just like Scrum, etc., often are confused if and how OKRs can help. Any experience and tips on how to convince them that these both are not a contradiction, but supporting each other? That is a great question. So the most important aspect here is that usually Scrum outlines the output. So basically, what actually have I, what feature have I implemented? But depending on how your agile methodology is weighted, so to say, it doesn't provide much insight on the outcome. So basically understanding what effect did I have. And even if your singular user stories are already very customer centric, OKRs are kind of like the aggregation of these user stories, outlining how did all of this pay into the same kind of strategic goal. And it kind of like links this, if an OKR on the product team level is basically formulated, that can also be a connection to how does our work link to the overall strategy. If you are interested in that topic a bit more about product teams and how to work with OKRs with that, we have on our e-learning academy page. So it's academy.workpath.com. There is a great course by Tim Herbig. He's a product expert and an OKR expert. And he is going into that way more from the product manager perspective. So if you're interested in that, Marco, feel free to sign up on academy.workpath.com. And it's the Outcome OKRs for Product Teams course. Another question from Marco. With a product team, an important project with hard milestones and deadlines keeps us pretty busy. So there's no time to start focus on capacity planning. Is it a common challenge and how to overcome it? So usually product teams do already something similar to capacity planning. However, if you're working with, for example, working with Jira, you can already, you can solve that problem by basically, you don't even have to calculate it and count it, but you can just like provide like tags in Jira for things that are, going towards OKR work and things, or like strategic work, and aspects that are more on an operative, keeping the lights on basis. So that is definitely that you can already do if you just flag the work or like the tickets in your project management or ticket management system. And so basically the interesting aspect here is how much is there a split between operative and strategic work even in your team? If yes, then I would definitely try to do capacity planning. However, it should be making sense for the team members as well. If I have put on a couple of, let's say, a couple of challenges, and with every agile method, make sure you're solving a problem with it. So if you don't have any of these problems, if you execute your OKR flawlessly and it doesn't have anything to do with how much capacity were you able to put towards to, and if none of these things are your actual problems, then maybe you don't need to do capacity planning because you're already doing it pretty well in your Scrum methodology. So please always make sure you're solving a problem with these kinds of implementations. All right, Chris, it seems like you're interpreting OKR somewhere only as an top-down instrument, telling people how to contribute to the strategy in addition to daily work. My understanding is that its original intent, OKRs, were meant to fuse a bottom-up perspective with the managerial view. What's your position? Great question. So the teams, we are very, let's say, adamant defendant on the bottom-up perspective. So to us, OKRs is more if you give OKRs from the top that are, based on, let's say, metrics that you can actually impact from the bottom, you can always decide on if you actually want to pay into them or not. So we are very very adamant about leveraging this the team's perspective and activating their strategic thinking in them asking like, how can we drive the other key results? But the teams have absolutely the liberty of not working on any of these topics that come from the top if they have a good reason and if they can, I don't know, provide good arguments on why they're not paying into the OKRs on the top. However, OKRs will always, depending on how the original split of work is between strategic and operative work, they will sometimes seem on top. So teams that are not really used to working strategically, they just do basically their business as usual, and the strategic parts is something that is new to them. This is when it will seem on top. However, I think in my opinion, every team should be at least working to some degree strategically, because their knowledge is dearly needed to execute the overall strategy. So I always push teams to find that aspect that is worth writing OKRs about. But it might be that they don't find one. That is always an option. And here the teams, I've also worked with teams that kind of like decided we're not writing OKRs anymore because we're, I don't know, the legal department. And to us, writing OKRs doesn't make sense, but we participate in another function in the OKR process. And that to me is very crucial. So I would say ideally, a lot of your work contributes automatically to strategic work. But for a lot of teams, that's not the case. Like the reality in a lot of bigger companies is that the teams don't do enough. They have enough work that they're doing already, but sadly, a lot of it does not contribute to strategic work. And if you put OKRs then now in the center, there's still this all of the other work that is there. And people are like, well, we're not like sitting here like rolling our thumbs the whole time. Why are you putting like these extra aspects onto us? And this just accounts for the team's reality that sometimes they don't have the time to focus on strategic topics because everything else around them is burning. So doing capacity planning will provide them with, like this was burning the whole time, and this is what we spent most of our time on. This is why we weren't able to reach the OKRs. And the teams have the decision-making power to decide what to work on, right? If they in the split, in the middle of the cycle, I realize we are not able to focus on OKRs, but this other topics that is burning is so much more important, then they should be able to work on that and have the OKRs as an exemption sidelined. But there is always a good reason for that. And to me, that's what OKRs should do, is to kind of like more inquire about the reasons why teams do certain things instead of just like pointing or like assuming that it's wrong or accounting for their reality. All right, how do you align capacity planning for OKRs, so strategic initiatives in day-to-day business that is not covered in OKR? I have a hard time understanding that question. Let me read it again. How do you align capacity planning for OKRs and day-to-day business not covered in OKRs? So to me, it's always going to be a certain split. You will always, so the strategic initiatives will probably be planned in pre-plan before you actually go into the alignment. And here you basically are either paying into the other OKRs already, so you're contributing with your work to the other OKRs. And on the other hand, your day-to-day business, which is not covered in OKRs, still exists and need to be like accounted for. And we need to understand how much does that take time from the work that we could actually do strategically. So basically, we should be aware of how much time we spend on what. That's kind of like the basic. I hope that answered the question. So which OKR Master online course is recommended? So we have a great e-learning called the Basic e-learning course, which is available under academy.workpath.com, which we can definitely recommend. And here you can basically learn the theory behind OKRs. If you would like to have let's say a deeper insights into these OKR topics, you can also visit our masterclass Flex, which is basically the e-learning that I just mentioned, plus a lot of interactive sessions where you learn how to draft OKRs and get your most important questions answered in the OKR process. All right, so let's have a look at the chat. So there is another question from Bastian. How do you track the time between business as usual, strategic works, bug fixes in the system? So the easiest way is to, basically, if you have the, let's say your own OKRs. So if you have your Jira epics linked with goals in WorkPath, and additionally are able to track the other aspects of the work, this is something that it can be provided in WorkPath. Or if you're using another system, it's sometimes it's not that much of a, let's say, control function, but rather nudging people to think about these things. So this is, to me, not too much on like controlling, but actually nudging people to think strategically on how they spend their time. Another question from Daniel. Calculating the capacity per team member is interesting. Is a rough calculation enough from what you experience? Because too much bureaucracy may be an obstacle, maybe more an obstacle than a help. So to me, this is, it helps to kind of like get some sort of transparency. And to be honest, if you fill out this canvas, it takes each team member maybe 5 minutes. And it's also not meant to be like the number that we determine now that will be valid forever. It's just like, let's see how much time we can spend on this and then see if we actually did plan it, do it as planned. So this is something I really want to stress. It's not about controlling, it's about estimating. And yeah, people say a bad estimate is better than no estimate. So it shouldn't be bureaucratic. It should just be, let's think about this for a second. And in our case, so we internally at WorkPath, we also do it right before the drafting. Everybody like thinks about, goes through the calendars, sees how much time am I spending in meetings, how much time am I spending on other things. And then, sometimes we even get a lot of other great insights from that, like something like, oh, we spent too much time in meetings, we should reduce that. So yeah, it's very important to keep that as high level and as like lightweight as possible. Yes, so I think those were all the questions. Yes, Teresa posted the trainings and the e-learning courses into the chat as well. Let's maybe wait if there are other questions coming up. I don't see any more in the chat. And good. So thank you so much for participating. So Teresa just said that she is going to send around a feedback survey as well. And you, of course, will get the slides and all the information that we provided. And if you are still in need of more content, always check out our library on our website. So you can basically get all the resources there. And if you decide to do a training with us, I'll be really happy to see you in one of the masterclasses. All right, thank you very much for joining, and have a nice day.